sales and magazine manager and newspaper manager, and through coordinated sessions and so forth and events and such as CRMA and ABP and PMA and the niche media events, it just seemed like a very logical and easy thing to put together. So we're very excited to have everybody here today. We're looking to bring that methodology and the practical application together. So we'll be toggling back with a lot of Ryan's proven methods here in prospecting and managing your sales funnel and so forth, and showing what you should be doing in your CRM, and specifically here in Magazine Manager. So I know we've got a lot of existing clients in the group today. We've got a lot of folks that may be looking for a good solution. So you're going to see some live, real-time examples of what we can accomplish. Some logistics about the show today. There's such a large audience that I think we've got to keep the questions to a submitted perspective. We can't engage the audio for everybody. It would be a little out of control there. But please do submit your questions. We'll do our best to answer them either on the fly, but certainly the ones we get to, we'll follow up if we can't answer them directly in the webinar today. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce Ryan Dorn from 360 Ad Sales Training, and let's get started. Hey, Ryan, how you doing?
Hey, perfect, Andy. Thanks, Andy and Karen and Adana and everybody at the Magazine Manager for allowing me to participate. I have to say, Andy, I really agree with you because I have a lot of customers that use the Magazine Manager, others that use some other CRM solutions. A common question is, hey, Ryan, how do we make this happen? I like to call it, if you will, the art of execution. There's actually a book that I read a few months back called The Art of Execution. And one of the things that happens a lot of times, and I think, Andy, you'd recognize this too, when we're on the road teaching these sales seminars is, wow, that was really great, so how do we do it? And so today what I really wanted to do was be able to take this prospecting plan that I call the Big 50 and then show people how you can easily use your CRM tool to make it happen. Because here's the thing, guys, the fact of the matter is this. As we roll forward and talk through these things, it's all about being highly disciplined. I think it's also about being highly relevant. But if you were going to write something down today to take away from this webinar right now, it would be that as salespeople, we need to be exceedingly relevant. We need to be highly disciplined, and we need to be exceedingly relevant. And looking at your screen right now, the reason I think it's so important for us to talk about sales funnels and sales pipelines is this. If you look back over the course of your sales career, I think any time that you've had tremendous success, whether it's selling issue to issue, whether it's selling special projects, whether it's selling classifieds, whatever it is, you've always had a full funnel, or you've been highly engaged. Now, let's be honest. Over the course of the last 2 years, what's been happening with the economy? What's been happening with ad sales? I see it in the events that I sell, the TV shows that I sell as well. And things are coming back. But what I've noticed is when times are tough, when I'm more disciplined and when I'm highly organized and I am highly relevant, I tend to have a lot more success. And to that end, what I really find is a CRM tool helps me be so much more organized. I probably work with about 70 some odd publishers a month, and there's one common thread, guys. The common thread is this. Superstar sales reps use their CRM tool religiously. So the first thing, Andy, if you don't mind, that I think I'd love to be able to show everybody is how they really should be able in their CRM tool to be able to line up these customers, search these customers, and find these customers. Obviously, the first step is you need to put your people in the system, whatever the system is.
Yeah, and certainly, Ryan, and just a real basic screenshot here that shows a little bit of the folks, the leads, the prospects, and you're going to get into how to prioritize and categorize and classify and speak to that funnel. I mean, at the basic levels, and really that's where you need to start. Some of you are probably a little further down the road and more advanced, but we'll start simple. And I'm a big proponent of keeping it simple. I think you'd probably agree with that, Ryan, as well. But just you see here in the priority, to be able to pull up in your CRM system very cleanly, very easily, a simple thing like the priority, whether it's an A, a B, a C, and so forth. But where we're going to go with this thing today is at the very end of that funnel, at the bottom, the narrow part where you're hopefully reaching out actual contracts and closing deals. That's really what it's about, is at the bottom of the funnel, and we want to turn that pipeline of the prospecting phase into actual opportunities. And those opportunities, as you see in this example, are actual proposals. In this case, maybe for the upcoming July issues of these products. Given a probability, you can see by rep, by product, and so forth. You can't get any more tangible than that. You can't get a more definitive opportunity that's a click away from becoming an actual book of insertions, commissions, however you want to look at it. But that's really the goal today in pursuing this management of your pipeline and your funnel.
One of the things I noticed, Andy, in working with organizations that are struggling is that very often what happens is the sales force is struggling because of massive randomness. And what happens is people have become accustomed to being the king or queen of random land. And it's not a title that you want to hold, okay? Anytime I'm working, now let's be clear here, superstar sales reps typically leave a fairly big wake behind them, okay? Any really superstar sales rep that I've worked with is like literally following behind a hurricane. I think we all would agree with that, okay? But one of the things you're going to find, whether they track things in a notebook or in their CRM tool, they've got a process. So as you're trying to manage these people, maybe you're a sales manager on the call today, as you're trying to manage these people, it's so important that you can log into your CRM tool, see where they've been, but more importantly than that, see where they're going. Because if I'm using a CRM tool, Magazine Manager or not, and I can't look in the tool and see where my salespeople are going, I'm dead in the water. It's really, really going to kill me. So part of this is prospecting has become a dying skill. It really has. For some of you that are on the call today, prospecting is literally flipping through a magazine of a competitor and going, oh gosh, I need to call them today. Or driving through your local market as a city and regional publisher and going, oh gosh, there's a new business. What I want to do is share this with you. There's 6 steps, and we're going to go through them in some great, awesome detail today, to perfect prospecting. And if you can define a perfect prospecting process, okay, that's a lot of P's, I'll give you that, a perfect prospecting process, then you're going to have greater success. I firmly believe that sales is a relationship game. You've got to have relationships with people. But also, guys, recognize sales is a numbers game. You've got to work the numbers in your favor. First of all, when prospecting, you need to define the perfect prospect. Many of you are truly prospecting the wrong people. You're going after the small fish because they're easier to fillet. You're not going after the whales that are out there because very often they're hard to hunt. They're even harder to bring back to port. Number 2, you need to create the perfect Big 50 list. What does that list look like? Well, we're going to show you how to build it and how to manage it in your CRM tool. And we're going to add to that perfect list non-creepy, okay, personalized research that you might find on LinkedIn or Facebook. And I'll talk about the non-creepy aspect here in just a second. Thirdly, you've got to send the perfect emails. Some of you are literally sending Moby Dick. I mean, you're literally sending great expectations to somebody. It's no wonder they're not responding to you. Number 4 in the prospecting phase, we're going to talk about this in detail. You need to create the perfect voicemails, and you need to track them through your CRM tool. And I'm going to share with you 5 that I use that I would say half of the time get me some type of response. Now, maybe they don't call me back. Let's be honest, okay? Everybody loves email, and I hate it because I love getting on the phone or face-to-face. Number 5 in prospecting, you need to create the perfect call zone. I'm going to share with you the 2 times of day to call that you're not necessarily going to get through, but you're at least going to have a chance of getting a response. If nothing else, stick around for number 5. Number 6, we're going to talk about creating the perfect pattern, because quite honestly, guys, if you're not calling in a pattern with a high level of repetition, you're going to be in trouble. You're just going to be in trouble. All right, first, we're going to define absolutely the perfect prospect. Now, before I get into these 7 things that I think make a perfect prospect, let me share this with you. Make note of this and write this down. There are 3 bubbles or 3 phases in my mind of the typical sales process. You've got prospecting. That's what we're talking about today. We're going to prospect 50 brand new people. I'm going to teach you how to do it and bring those people to you in 30 days. The second bubble, or second step, is in-progress sales. The third is you got active customers that you need to retain and keep them with you. Now what happens is most salespeople try to sell in phase number one. They try to sell during the prospecting phase. Here's the problem, everybody. Listen to me closely on this. So important. In phase number one, I'm talking about myself. I'm talking about my products. I'm asking good questions, leaving great voicemails. But here's the thing to remember. Very often, sales reps try to sell in the prospecting phase. And the problem with that, it's a big problem, is that the advertiser's not ready. So let's talk about defining the perfect prospect and staying in line, okay? First of all, I want to look for prospects that are active in the market. Why? Why? Because here, guys, remember something. I'm not looking for the hard advertiser. I'm not one of those salespeople that likes to hunt after somebody for 2 years and then finally get them in the book. I hear that all the time. Oh, Ryan, man, I have worked on that customer for 3 years, and I finally got him in the book. You know, there's a saying here in the South that makes me laugh all the time. It's bless your heart, okay? It's not a term of endearment, okay? So what you want to do is look for people that are active in the market because they're easier to bring in. Secondly, I'm looking for prospects that show signs of need, okay? And I'm going to track these in my CRM tool, and we're going to show you that in just a second. Third, I'm looking for somebody that has a budget, okay? How do you know if they have a budget? If they're advertising, they typically have a budget. Also, most owners, marketing directors, manufacturers, OEMs, whoever, they typically do, have some type of marketing budget. Number 4, I'm looking for people that have or have not run in the past. I don't care if they've run in the past, and my CRM tool should show me if they have run in the past. I don't mind if they haven't had success in the past. I want to talk to them. I want to find out what worked, what didn't work. Number 5, I want to look for people that have new products and services. I love advertisers that are continuously releasing new products and services. I absolutely love it, okay? I'm also looking for companies that have a marketing director. Why is that important? Because if they have a marketing director, typically they have a marketing budget. Now, it is always funny to me when we call on someone that's a marketing director and they say they have no budget. That is always funny to me because I wonder, what do you do all day, okay? So I often wonder that. Number 7, and this is so important, okay? If you make note of this, share it with your sales team or live and die by this, folks. Live and die by it. Avoid hard sells. Truly, if you were to line up the definition of someone that's just really bad news, you would line up with some salespeople that just stalk advertisers for years. And there's a bunch of you on the call today that'll say, yeah, but Ryan, I've had at least 10 opportunities over my career where I have stalked somebody, or I'm sorry, sold somebody for 3 years, and they finally came into the book. Guys, I know it happens. But what I'm looking for is I want to close 50 people in the next 30 days. So to that end, I can't have the mentality of a serial killer. I can't be stalking these people for 6 months. I've got to figure out ways to close them, and that's really truly, what we're gonna dissect today. Now, rolling forward, this is the step number 2. So step number 1 is defining the perfect prospect. All right. And step number 2 is where we really begin to get into our CRM tool, and that's where we're going to develop the perfect list, and I call it the Big 50. Where does the Big 50 come from? It's pretty easy. Nearly every organization that I've worked with has a mathematical scenario of how many people they need to call in order to make it happen. For me, it has always worked out to be 50 brand new advertisers, 50 people that haven't run with us in the last 60 days. Remember, if you log into your CRM tool, okay, if you're logging into Magazine Manager, and this happened to me 2 weeks ago, I'm logged into Magazine Manager with a customer, and every single account was marked as active. Guys, you've got prospecting, you've got in-progress sales, and you've got active customers. We're talking about prospecting. So what we want to do is we want to be able to use our CRM tool to form the perfect list. Okay, we want to form the perfect list. I'm looking for 50 customers. Now, What I want to do is, if you don't mind, Andy, if you kind of explain what we're seeing on the screen, because I want to point out to people and love for you to tell them about the priority that's here. Also, guys, if you look to the right, you've got all the characteristics of a good product. And I just want Andy to talk about that a little bit, because there's a client score on the right side of the screen, which I think Andy is going to be able to help explain a little bit.
Sure, Ryan. You know, I think what I'd like to give an example, and you can create your own variations of this, but just kind of following on what Ryan's approach here is. You look at those 6 items. Are they active in the market? Do they show signs of need? What is the need? Maybe it's simple. I'm always going for that simple aspect of it. Maybe you categorize or classify with a simple score of 1 to 3 in those values, and you can just simply pull up in a prospect search and have the scores calculated and ordered in a descending order, so you can see who are the hottest ones, and then simply going over to the left and checking off the boxes and making them part of your Big 50 group. So you can do some blast emailing to them. You can create a call list from that. Very methodical, very system-oriented. Doing what Ryan's promoting and preaching, the proven method here, but making it so that it's something that you can actually execute. And in high volume, we always say, don't work harder, work smarter. I think we would both agree that, well, work smarter and then start working even harder and be super productive and get the high volume, not just the volume that so many sales managers and publishers are seeking out of their salespeople, but the quality, it's right in step with that high volume. And that's really the approach.
Yeah, and the score, if you guys notice on the right side of the screen, which says client score, what Karen has done is enabled you within my setup here, and this is my magazine manager setup, has allowed me to be able to put a score next to all these. So if I'm a sales manager, I can go through this Big 50 list, and I can look down at the bottom one there that's takeoff, okay, Sarah Stone, takeoff, Pittsburgh. I can see it only has a score of 7. As a sales manager, I might say, whoa, hold on. Ryan, why are you calling on that person? They only score a 7. So you can go in, and Andy, I'll let you talk about that because you know the system. You guys can, everybody that is a Magazine Manager customer can go in and set this criteria to score a prospect.
Right, and some people might not, want to do the numerical aspect of this. It might want to actually track the content of what the details of what is it about their activity in the market, and maybe select from a drop-down of descriptions, or maybe just a free text field to leave a note as to how they're active in the market, what competitive entities of advertising that you're up against, things like that. Or you may want to do both. Once again, keep it simple initially out of the gate.
And then you've got the priority, guys. You'll see on the left side of the screen you've got the priority. You notice these are marked as prospects. So in your priority field, your data field for priority, I want to encourage you to consider having prospect, in progress, and active as at least a minimum of 3. So if you walk away from this call with just that alone, I think it's going to dramatically change how you classify your advertisers within your CRM tool. It's important, very important. It doesn't take that long for you to reclassify folks, because as we're going to talk about here in just a little bit with the My Lists function, you're going to be able to pull up prospects, send them group emails, and things like that. But for me, I really feel like this is very, very important as I'm rolling forward to my Big 50. Now, looking at the Big 50 here on the screen in front of you, the reason I chose 50 is because, I try to be a simple guy, okay? But there's 5 days in the week. I want to have 10 brand new advertising prospects. Again, these are people that are brand new to the magazine or newspaper, people that have not run in the last 6 months. That's my definition. You can go with whatever definition that you want. So the reason I do this is because in my mind, I want to see a grid like this. So on Monday, I'm going to call Dr. John, Acme, Ryder, Effortville, TJ's, etc. Now, I might actually categorize those. I might actually group those, and Andy's going to show you in a second how to do that. So I might actually group these, because I might want to call on Monday all car dealers to make sure that I get in that mindset. On Tuesday, I might want to call all boat manufacturers so I get myself in that mindset, so you can categorize those days. The way the math works, though, is you're going to be calling every day on these 50. So you're going to be calling on Monday those 10. On Tuesday, you're going to call those 10. On Wednesday, you're going to call that list of 10. Thursday, that list of 10, Friday, that list of 10. Now, here in about 15 minutes, I'm going to give you the pattern I have found for success. But at the bare minimum, this is how I want to lay it out. Okay, it's really important for me to lay it out this way in my mind so that I recognize I need to dedicate time to making this happen. Okay, remember, I'm going to tell you the perfect time to call. You're going to need to make sure that you dedicate time in your day. Oh, Ryan, I don't have time. My boss is a jerk. All he does is send me emails all day. I don't have time to prospect. Guys, here's the thing. If you have a CRM tool, you can come back and hit this list all throughout the day, but what you can't do is not prospect. I mean, it's not, it just can't happen. So what I'm going to do in the beginning in developing my Big 50, I might write this out on a piece of paper or whatever, but more than likely you already have the names in your CRM tool, okay, more than likely. So what you're going to need to do is go into the tool, start reprioritizing people, using the criteria that those 7 things that we talked about, okay, and making sure that your prospects match that criteria, and this is the 50 that's here. Now, let's just say, as an example, that your boss sends you an email, and all of a sudden what happens is, you know, you're in trouble. You've got to go and do a report or something like that. Andy's going to tell you here about the My Lists feature, which allows you to be able to go and pull these people by their priority or whatever. You can talk more about that.
Sure, Ryan. And you know, if you look back on your list on Thursday, you know, today is Thursday. You've got calls for Tiffany and Rexler and ScubaNet and Doritos and so forth. The idea is to take that very quickly and make it systematic and a recurring entity, so you don't have to keep thinking about the big plan. You can put people on an every other day, you know, mentality, every third day. A lot of times, you know, you're going to have to apply logic and sanity, you know, as the exceptions occur and what makes sense for the follow-up phone call. But, you know, kind of diving away from the screenshot, Karen, why don't we jump into the actual software for a minute and go into this My Lists, where, you know, just at a very basic level, you can see here you've got all your callbacks, today's, this week's. If we simply go into today's callbacks, we're going to see all of those Thursday calls because we would have had our list up in front of them, gone through and scheduled those Thursday calls. And as you create the calls and go through them, say you click on Doritos, you see they pop up over in the right screen, you can make the call, leave a note, you know, whatever occurs, and then very quickly, very easily follow up and schedule the next call. If it's an every other day plan, well, that's going to be, you know, Monday. So let's go ahead and schedule a call for Monday, and we'll get into a little bit of how you might categorize and identify what stage in the sales process they are, maybe with simple like stage 1, 2, 3, 4 stuff, right? Just foreshadowing a bit. You know, you click save, and now you've got the call scheduled for Monday. You get on to the next one, you're going to go on to Gary's Burger, and, you know, we're going to make the next call.
Right. And the thing to remember, you know, guys, about this is that we want to make sure that we're highly organized. The only way you're going to be able to bring in, as promised from this webinar, 50 customers in the next 30 days is if you're highly organized. The other piece of it is, in my opinion, is that you have to back this up with personalized research. I mean, you really have to make sure that what you're doing offers a high level of relevancy. So let me show you how to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, for example, Kevin Murphy here from Pelican Products. Now, I have Kevin on my Big 50. I've determined that he meets my 7 criteria for being a good prospect. All right? So what I did is I went over to LinkedIn, and I used my research tools there. Now, guys, if you don't know how to use LinkedIn and you're not a business customer with LinkedIn, I really feel like you're missing out. Using LinkedIn, reach out to the folks at Magazine Manager, myself, whoever, and we'll do a webinar on LinkedIn if we need to, just to help boost your sales. So here's Kevin Murphy. What am I looking for? On this screen, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for information that I can use in my prospecting emails and my prospecting voicemails to be able to create a non-creepy, okay, personal connection to Kevin. What do I mean by creepy? I don't really think that it's appropriate to mention his marital status, talk about his kids, you know, maybe not mention his favorite kinds of music and things like that. I'm looking for business connections. So as an example, I see here that he went to the Academy of Art University. My mom's a graphic designer, so maybe that's something that we could talk about at some point. I see here in his summary that he's run $20 million national broadcast campaigns with guerrilla-style YouTube videos. What's that tell us? It tells me I'm not going to be able to pull anything over on him. He's a smart advertiser. If I look down here as an example, I'll notice on LinkedIn his interests: surfing, woodworking, photography, building my cabin in the Sierra wilderness. What is that all about? I mean, that's the kind of stuff that when you look at it makes it really, really impactful as you're creating this research. Now, the cool piece of this whole thing is that you're able to add that research over to your magazine manager profile. So, Andy or Karen, maybe you could just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, you can see right here on the research, this is just at the bottom highlighted, at the bottom of a record. Being a cloud-based software solution gives you access to this document. So when you take that screenshot or print it out to a PDF perhaps, or save it as a JPEG, whatever you may do, you can simply add that actual information right there, and you can pull it up whether you're on your smartphone, your tablet, whether you're in the office or at home or at Starbucks, the library, on vacation, or wherever. It's very easy just to upload and attach files. A nice aspect of cloud-based systems. But to go in there, you're in a record, you're about to make a phone call, click on the link, pulls up the saved screenshot, take a look, great, it's there forever, eternity.
So remember, guys, if you can actually remember, okay, the calls you made yesterday or the day before and the research that you attached to those phone calls, you didn't make enough calls. I'm just being honest with you. So the thing about a CRM tool that's so important is that if you see on the screen before you write, you're able to look very carefully and be able to attach this research. So as you're going through and you're creating these lists, you can keep all this stuff about this guy right at the tip of your fingers, okay? Now, it's important because if you want to bring in these 50 customers, what you have to do is you have to accurately understand that being a generic salesperson is not going to help you. You have got to be exceedingly relevant. Exceedingly relevant. And to that end, you need to have personalized company and personalized research on each one of the people that you're calling on. Let me give you an example. I'm calling on Bob Jones, okay, and Bob Jones is a car dealer. Is it better for me to call on him and say, hey, Bob, it's Ryan calling from such and such magazine. Got a great issue coming up. The chances of me being deleted are how high? Very, very high. Instead, what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to create the perfect prospecting emails and the perfect prospecting voicemails. And what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to call Bob and say, hey, Bob, I saw on LinkedIn or I saw on your website that you guys have a new model that's coming out. And I really think that we have a great way to help you market that product or whatever it is. It might be better for us to be able to say, hey, Bob, I see that you've got the new Model 330 coming out. And I've got a great idea to get the 330 in front of our 35,000 readers. Now, let's be honest. Who's more likely to get responded to? Somebody that's generic or somebody that's specific? Your CRM tool helps you marry that research up so that as you're prospecting on these folks, you're able to create the perfect voicemail, the perfect email. Now, what are the traits of the perfect email? I'm going to share them with you right now. I use it every day. These emails are short, short, short. The email always begins with the client name. Hi, Bob. Hi, John. Hi, Julie. Hi, Brandon. Hi, Julie, whatever it is. Always. Why? Because when someone is on their phone, okay, when someone is on their phone, and this is the primary tool that business owners are going to use to delete your email. Say, follow me on this. Phones are most often used at lunch, on the weekends, after hours, not to read email, but to delete email. What's the number one function that everybody knows how to do on their phone? Delete email. So check this out and look at this iPhone example here on the left. You see where it says Discus? That's who it's going to be from. Okay, that's who the email came from. Look here. Everybody, you only have 4 to 5 words in the subject line to get your point across. So what if you put the name of your magazine there? Oh, man, that is not going to work. Someone's going to think, oh, it's an e-newsletter. Don't really need that right now and delete it. Look down here even more importantly. What you've got here is you've got the text of the email. You only have, in the Galaxy example here on the right and the iPhone example here on the left, you only have 7 to 12 words to get your point across. Guys, 7 to 12 words, that's like nothing. So the goal here, make note of this, write this down. In my opinion, I would write it down, is that you don't want to be deleted. You want strategies to not be deleted. So to that end, what's so unbelievably important is that we've got to make sure that we put the person's name up at top. We need to contain the client's business name. We need to include a new idea or a relevant success story. And of course, what's not here that should be here is have really good subject lines. I just received one today. The subject line was, "Hey Ryan." Well, I opened it up. Did you fire me? Might be one that's kind of funny. I don't know that it's appropriate all the time. I don't like to use things all the time that are always clever. But one thing I did learn is I don't put the name of my media company in the subject line. I don't lead off any voicemail or email with my name and the name of my company. Oh, Ryan, I can't do that. I've been selling for 15 years. That's the way I was taught. Listen, I'm going on 20 years of selling. I know how I was taught. I know how you were taught. But guys, this is a new day and age. We've got to understand that people are not looking to listen to us. They're not looking to read our emails. They're looking to delete us. They're looking to move on. All right? And so that's why it's so important for us to be able to create the perfect email. So what do those emails look like? Here they are. And what's important to understand is we're going to add these emails, these email templates, to our CRM software. So let's look at the first one here. Remember, I've got the name of the customer here. Hi, Bob. All right? So I got, "Hi, Bob. I'm going to be exceedingly relevant." This is my email, and what I do is I call and immediately send an email. "Hi, Bob. I saw online that you're about to launch the new 330 products, or the 330 model. I have a unique way to put Jayco, the name of his company, so he's not going to delete that, in front of 35,000 new customers in the next 30 days. And this is critical, everybody, critical. I promise not to waste your time." Now, why do I include that in nearly every email that I send? I do that because what most people think of salespeople is what?
They're going to waste your time.
You're time wasters. They're time wasters. And I don't want to be that. Make note of this. I very often say in my emails and leave in my voicemails, I pride myself in not wasting people's time. I can't tell you the number of times somebody has said to me, "Hey, Ryan, I appreciate the fact that you pride yourself in not wasting people's time." Because most salespeople, no matter what I say to them, they continuously waste my time. Now, the important part of these templates is this. Why do we use templates? You notice on the first one, I'm talking about a model. Okay, so I'm being relevant. You notice the second one is different. It says, "Hi, Bob. Barron's," who's a competitor of his, "is really marketing hard these days." How do I know that? I see them in the magazine. "I've got a new idea to really give them a run for their money." What's the thought process behind number 2? People hate to hear that their competitors are doing well. Template number 3, "Hi, Bob. I saw on LinkedIn that we share a common passion for surfing. Surf's up, dude," or whatever. "I sure wish I had more time for that. Love to chat for 5 minutes." What's the idea behind number 3? I'm looking to create some type of personal connection. Number 4, here's 3 of his competitors. "Hi, Bob. Cisco, Dynamax, and Creative Edge are all seeing some solid results from their marketing partnerships with us." Now, the important piece of this is this. This is number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. These are my templates. They may not be your templates. Maybe you don't want these to be your templates, but templates are a part of my life. They help save me time. And I have these templates, and I'm happy to share these with you. I have these templates sitting on my desktop. I use them all the time. That's great, but how about this? Why wouldn't we have those templates in our CRM tool? So I'll have Andy talk about, or Karen talk about for a second, the fact of this. We've got these templates set up. You'll see email option 4, 3, 2, 1, and they're here within the system. So it allows me to be able to save time and energy and effort rolling forward. So I'll let you guys talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, very simply here, tying in, just following up and being able to input, the merged fields of that client's record literally in a couple clicks and a couple seconds to get that very systematic message across. It can be very, very structured and non-editable, or it can leave room to add in some information. And you can see here the author can be the individual sales rep. It could be the sales manager. But as Karen is showing here, when you're in a client record such as Doritos here, you simply go into write letter, pick the stage that you're at, whatever that might be, 1, 2, 3, or 4, click number 1, select it, and it's just going to merge that client contact information or that prospect information directly into a simple email. And you can see Karen's typing in the new product or the new service that the potential client might be offering, that could actually be a merged field if it were something that you tracked in the client record. There's really no end to the sophistication that you can enable in this methodology. So it's a very simple stuff, and this can be applied in a broader blast email sense too. It's your option. It's just sometimes you're working one-on-one on a client record. Sometimes you're trying to forward along a blast email. We'll touch on that a little bit later in the webinar.
And if you look down towards the bottom there under recent notes and activities that I have on this customer, what it's going to show is that it very quickly and easily shows that on the date that I already made the call, that I've made call 1, because why in the world would I want to leave the same voicemail time and time again? I was just talking to a publisher yesterday, I guess, in Florida, and I said, how many calls do you get from printers? He said, oh my gosh, 5 or 6 a day. I said, how many times do they leave the exact same voicemail and send you the exact same templated email? He says, like every time. So I find myself going back to the core foundation of sales, which is this. You need to be highly disciplined. You need to be exceedingly irrelevant to that person. So what I want to encourage you to understand using your CRM tool is that you want to track when you're sending template 1. You want to track when you're leaving voicemail 1. You want to track when you're sending email 2. More importantly than that, if you wouldn't mind, Karen, show them where you can store all these. You can store these templates. So you're able to go and you're able to store these templates in a collective depository, so that as you guys are working on this as a sales team together, let's just say that Bob says, hey, template number 1 is really working for me, number 3 is not, and everybody says, wow, number 3 is not working. Well, then you can go in and you can edit that and do whatever it is that you need to do to make sure that you guys are collectively sharing really, really good information. And so one of the other nice features of Magazine Manager is the fact that you're able to put all those in a collective shared environment. I don't know, what do you guys call that, Andy, where you guys store all this stuff together? I don't know what it's called.
Well, it's the one area we call it a document manager. Moving on from the email templates into the voicemail templates as well. Until it becomes second nature, you want to be a little more systematic,
right.
About that. So it's a matter of simply going in and creating the perfect the perfect voicemail.
Yeah. Yep. And I really find that overall it's very, very helpful for me to have these templates in the CRM tool, because what I find is a lot of folks are all the time. They're just going through the paces and they're doing everything from scratch. And the problem with that is that it's very difficult for them to be able to stay systematic. You're going to notice if you're talking to Pfizer or you're talking to Zoetis or these big pharmaceutical companies, one of the things they do well is they're very, very systematic. Now, in talking about voicemails, the same thing applies. Step number 4, we need to create the perfect voicemail. And the reason the perfect voicemail is so important is that we want to make sure that we're consistent. If we're not consistent with the email that we're sending, we're confusing the customer. Remember, write this down. Advertisers don't buy what they don't understand, and they don't communicate with individuals that they don't understand. Remember something, a lot of sales trainers, some of the big ones, some of the biggest and the best of the best, will teach that you do not leave a voicemail. And this is why I disagree wholeheartedly. Voicemails allow me to become a known entity to a person. They allow me to become a resource to an advertiser. And voicemails allow me to advance my marketing message. And that's why I leave voicemails. But I do it differently. Let's look at template number 1. And you're going to be able to store this in your CRM tool. So as you're calling these prospects, you're going to be able to use the same template time and time again, but we're going to do template number 1. Hey, Bob, with the new 330 model about to release, I've got a really cool way to put the Jayco 330 in front of 35,000 new customers in the next 30 days. Listen, Bob, I promise not to waste your time. I'm sending you an email about this as well. This is Ryan from Chicago Magazine, 888-812, and I might even put in there, say my number slow. Andy, let me ask you this. How many times do you get a voicemail from somebody where they leave their phone number, 888-812-9991? You can't even hear it.
I'm not the court stenographer.
Yeah, exactly. So the template part of this, guys, is so unbelievably important because look at number 2. Hey, Bob, Barron's is really marketing hard these days. I've got a new idea to really give them a run for their money. Now, at face value, you guys are all looking at these templates going, yeah, Ryan, but I don't want to be a telemarketer. Folks, listen, I'm not encouraging you to be a telemarketer. What I am encouraging you to consider is this. Most of you don't think about what you're going to say on a voicemail until you hear what? Beep. And that's when you start thinking about it. And then you look down at the voicemail and you're like, oh gosh, I've just left a 55-second voicemail. And some of you need to reach down and press the 0 or 7 key and re-record it, okay? For me, I want to be systematic. So on day number 1, I'm going to leave voicemail number 1. I know what it's about, and I'm going to send email number 1. And I'm going to be really systematic. Look down through these voicemails. I'm systematic in my approach. Now, one thing to recognize is that you may be, say you're in the B2B industry, you might have unique templates. Let's just say that you're in the consumer space. You might have unique templates. I have found this methodology to work. Let's go through it quickly. Number 1, I want to be relevant and always mention a model or a product specifically. I promise not to waste their time. Template number 2, I always talk about a customer. So if they've not called me back or emailed me back after the email and voicemail series on my Big 50 of number 1, I'm moving to number 2 where I'm mentioning a competitor. Number 3, if I don't get through to them with 1 or 2 or move on to 3. Number 3 is, hey, I saw on LinkedIn, we share a common passion for surfing. Maybe we've got an alumni connection, which, by the way, alumni connections and college football have won me more business, and horses, having common passions for horses or whatever, have won me more business than I can claim. I always find this information on LinkedIn. I don't go to Facebook and call somebody, oh, Andy, I saw your kid won the best student award for the day. That's a little creepy. Or, hey, Andy, I saw on LinkedIn that you got a new T-shirt at the Gap. It's a little creepy. All right. What I want to do is I want to talk about things that are meaningful to people. Look at number 4. If you get to number 4 and you haven't gotten through, call me because something's wrong in your process. Hey, Bob, you're mentioning all of his competitors. They're having great results. So remember, guys, you're going to be tracking this stuff in your CRM tool. And the reason that it's important that you do that is because if you're not systematic, you will be random. If you are random, you will not be successful. And that's the point that I really want to leave with you, before we move on to this next slide, is that it's very, very important that you be systematic, that you absolutely be systematic.
And Ryan, sorry, didn't mean to step over you there, but to be systematic once again, until these steps, these voicemails become systematic, just throw them up in your document manager and magazine manager or your CRM solution. You should be able to have these handy. So you just click on it, open it, whether it's a PDF or Word document. They're at your fingertips always. So you just can't go wrong, and you can be consistent in what you're doing.
Even if you're making those calls from your car or outside the office, you have access to them on your tablets.
I love the beauty of the cloud from that perspective as well. And then again, don't forget, guys, here in your template manager or your document manager, go in here and tweak these templates as a group and determine which ones work and and which ones don't work. And I think it's important. You can categorize them, as Karen's shown here, by the various things that you have. So I think it's an important part of your CRM tool. Very important part. All right. So rocking forward, let's talk about step number 5, and this is the one that a lot of you have been waiting for, the perfect time to call and prospect customers. And this is what I have found. Think about your day. When is the number 1 time that most people do not plan a meeting? Typically, most people don't plan meetings for 11 a.m. or 11:30 because why? They don't want to interrupt their lunch. Okay? Seriously. Okay, next. What is the next time of day that most people don't plan a meeting? Right before they go home. So 4 o'clock, 3:30, 4, 4:30. Because people don't plan a meeting then because they don't want to mess up their day. So to that end, I have discovered very, very handily, this has worked well for me, that 11 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. are the perfect times for me to call. Now, does that mean that every single time I'm going to get through to somebody? No, it doesn't. What I have found, though, is that if I leave a voicemail and then I immediately send an email, the voicemail reminds them of the email that I sent. So these are the 2 times that I'm going to dedicate. But remember something, and let's flip over to Magazine Manager to a client record, Karen, because you're not always calling everybody within your own time zone. So if you guys can, show people how they can either show the time zone, and you can pull a list based upon the time zone as well.
Yeah, very simple. You go in. This is where the data field exists, because maybe it is the best time for this client isn't 11 to 3. Maybe it's a restaurant. That's probably not a good time to be calling someone at a restaurant. Because they're getting all their food deliveries and such. But maybe in the morning. But whatever it might be, track these elements. Systematic. Have we got that point across yet?
Yeah.
But
exactly.
from that, you simply go into your list. You could spend, you want to get to the point really where the sales rep is almost in this My List window, like almost the entire day.
Right.
Because they can manage, they can search. You can put your own list together, click on the search button, pick your top 50, maybe even segment it by what time zone and best time to call or not. And boom, if you go back to the My Lists, you'll see we already created one there. You've got your top 50 broken out into time zones so that that makes for a nice day, progression, because every hour you're hitting like another group hitting 11 o'clock. So it's just another way to really maximize the system that most of you probably already have that aren't really getting the most out of. I mean, it's software, we get that. And that's why we're here today.
It's honestly, Andy and Karen, it's one of the features that, in my opinion, is a huge win for Magazine Manager. My list allows me to be able to create the various lists that you see here for Pacific Time, Central Time, Eastern Time. Many of you are selling in various time zones. Whether you are or not, the nice thing about the My List feature is I can create a list of prospects, people that are in progress, people that are active that I'm trying to retain. But remember something, that 11 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. is so important just because of the psychology behind prospecting. Now, we don't have a lot of time to get into the nitty-gritty detail of all the details of My List today. Just keep in mind, we're going to be talking about this in really great detail at FMA down in Florida here, coming up later on, or August 1st, and then also at the Niche Digital Conference, in Nashville. And we'll get into the details. All right, last most important step as we're rolling here towards the end. Last most important step is you need to create the perfect pattern for success. Now, I should have said at the onset, and I usually do, is this. You're not going to agree with everything that I say today. It's just the nature of the beast. As I like to say, I'm going on 18 years of being married. I'm very good at being wrong, okay? But this is my opinion, but my opinion has resonated and seems to have worked for quite a few people. So I want to share this with you. Here's the pattern that I use. Don't worry about the big 50. Let's worry about one customer. On my Monday list, you see Dr. John. Let's not use Dr. John because doctors are a pain. Let's use TJ's as an example, okay? So for TJ's, I'm going to call on TJ, a brand new advertiser, using my templates. I'm going to call on them basically every other or every third business day, okay? So for example, here's an example for Acme. Just follow me on this. Don't jump off because you think, hey, I can never do this. It's unreasonable. Touch number 1 for me is going to be a Monday call. I'm going to leave voicemail 1. I'm going to send email number 1 based on my templates. Touch number 2 for me is going to be Thursday as an example, maybe Wednesday, but it can't be once a week. It's got to be at least every other day or every third business day. I'm then going to leave voicemail number 2 and email number 2. The next Tuesday, I'm going to send voicemail number 3. Leave voicemail number 3. Send email number 3. Then Thursday, okay, I'm going to send voicemail number 4. I'm going to send email number 4. Now, why do I have this varied? It is a pattern. It is slightly varied, but why do I have this pattern? One thing to remember, folks, is this. If you always call somebody on Monday, because when you're in your CRM tool, you set the callback for a week, you don't know what's happening in that person's life on Monday, okay? As an example, you don't always want to call me on Monday. Mondays aren't good days for Ryan Dorn. Let me just be honest with you, especially Monday mornings. Honestly, think about this. Mondays aren't good days for most people. Fridays are happy days for most people, but I don't get a lot of business done. But the thing about it is, use your CRM tool to set this pattern up and be systematic. I mean, can you imagine trying to organize this in Outlook? Oh, Ryan, I've been using Excel and Outlook for years. Oh, bless your heart. Look at this. You can't manage 50 customers and try to bring them in people in the next 30 days and not use a tool, not use some type of CRM tool. And so as you look at this pattern, some of you might be saying to yourself, especially if you've been selling as long as I have, as Andy has, as Karen has, Ryan, that is way too aggressive. Guys, listen, all I'm looking for is a go or a no. That's all I'm looking for. I'm looking for a go or a no. I'm not looking for them to buy something from me. Many of you are just looking at it from the wrong way. I want to encourage you to consider this. You're just looking for a go or a no. You're trying to get these folks to a meeting. Because many of you are trying to sell, or many salespeople are trying to sell in the prospecting phase, because of that, you're doing yourself a disservice, and this is the #1 reason that advertisers don't contact you back via email or phone, because they're not ready to buy. So prospecting is about using your tools that you have in front of you, your CRM tool, being highly disciplined, being highly relevant, and having a really, really great, quality pattern for success. And if you don't have that pattern in front of you, you're really going to have a hard time bringing in these customers. Now, maybe some of you are asking, hey, Ryan, great, okay, wonderful, love you, mean it. Where do I find the 50? Where did the 50 come from? For a lot of you, the 50 are in your system already. If you're a magazine manager customer, they're in your system. And I would bet a stake at Ruth's Chris. This is how confident I am. I would bet a stake at Ruth's Chris very often, okay, that if you log into your CRM tool, whatever it is, okay, most of your customers are going to be classified as active advertisers. Some of you have 1,000. I was with a customer 3 weeks ago. Each rep had 1,000 accounts. Are you kidding me? How are you actively managing 1,000 accounts? Begin by breaking them down in your tool by priority, in progress, prospects, and active customers. So you can actually begin to categorize those customers. I mean, overall, prospecting for me is really about being able to keep things highly organized. Now, let's talk about finding these prospects and getting them into the system. You can see in front of you right now that as you're searching, you're adding people into the system. Where am I looking for these folks? Again, going back to those 7 things we talked about in the beginning. I'm looking in competitive magazines for people that are active. I'm listening for people that are on the radio. I'm looking for people that actively advertise on the internet, because print is powerful. I'm looking for people that are active. That's the folks where I really find a lot of good leads. Where else do I find good leads? I find good leads from press releases. A lot of people don't like press releases because most advertisers are just looking for free publicity. I love press releases because I call them press releases to cash. Press releases to cash, baby. I love those press releases because you know what I have? I have digital opportunities for these people if they've missed print. I've got something to prove to these people. You say, well, I don't want to call them because all they want is free publicity. I have turned more press releases into cash in the last 60 days than any other form of prospecting. The other piece is you're going, right, to a trade show or you're going to an event and you get business cards from people. The first thing that you're going to do is what? You're going to form a contact group. I'll let you guys talk about it. You come in, you form a contact group.
Yeah, you're doing a great job. I mean, it's just so intuitive to what you're speaking about, Ryan. That whether it's attaching people to an event or maybe a list that you purchased, very simple. And then as you mentioned, you got that 30-day time frame. You want to not let it build and build and build until you get to the point that you've got an unmanageable list of 1,000 contact records in there. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah. If you toggle over to whether it's this contact search screen or you're working from your prospect search screen, that it's just a flux report, a customized report that you could mirror in your own system. You can just check people on the side as they need to either be added or deleted to a group, or released or reassigned to a different rep. This is just basic, simple functionality that, unfortunately, honestly, we see a lot of people not utilizing. Once again, whether it's a sales manager or a sales rep performing this activity, that's something that that can be determined at each publisher's place of business there. But very simple tools to keep this thing on track, to keep it organized.
Yeah. Now, just in real quick review, guys, before we wrap up, the 6 steps, again, are very straightforward and simple. We want to define the perfect prospects. We want to group them correctly, as you see on your screen, by priority here on the right side. Secondly, we want to create the perfect Big 50 list. I'm going to work these 50 people, and here's key. I'm going to work these 50 people for 30 days, okay, and then I'm going to give them a break, or I'm going to trade them, okay? Now, why do I trade accounts? I'm going to trade accounts with somebody because I know that when they call on them, they're going to close the business. Did some of you just fall out of your chair? Okay, I know for a fact that if I trade an account with somebody, they're going to close it. So I want them to trade accounts with me. I want to encourage you as sales managers on the call and salespeople. You want to trade accounts, guys. The reason you want is because what I'm going to do is I'm not going to trade accounts with Karen or with Andy. I'm going to trade accounts with Karen. Why? Because I want them to hear from somebody that's completely different from me, somebody that sounds different, maybe handles things differently. What happens in most offices is when you begin to trade accounts, you trade accounts with your buddy. And your buddy or your pal is somebody that's like you for the most part. What I want to do is really make sure that I'm trading accounts with people that can really get through, and I want them to trade with me. That's step 2, create the perfect list. Number 3, create the perfect emails and email templates and be able to track them in your CRM tool. Create the perfect voicemails is number 4, and the perfect voicemail templates and track them in your CRM tool. Number 5, create the perfect call zones. Track those Eastern time zones, Pacific time zones, as you see here under my saved search. Track those, and remember, 11 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. for that perfect call zone. And number 6, you can't do without a good CRM tool, and that is create the perfect patterns. You've got to create the perfect patterns, guys, to be able to make sure you're contacting these new advertisers with a high enough level of repetition that you won't be deleted. I'm going to leave you with this, and we're going to talk about just a couple things, and then we'll wrap up. I'm going to leave you with this. There's a woman that sat in the front row of a talk, or a coaching session, rather, that I did in the Midwest. And it's a good thing she was pretty. Otherwise, I wouldn't have tolerated the fact that for 2.5 hours she rolled her eyes. She sat in the front row and she rolled her eyes. And, you know, I told my wife about this, by the way. She sat in the front row and she rolled her eyes. And at the break, I said, you know, listen, and I won't say her name. I said, listen, I appreciate the fact that you're here. You know, bless your heart. Why are you rolling your eyes? She said, because you're full of crap. This is the biggest bunch of baloney I ever heard. This will not work. This is going to make people angry. People are going to be mad when I do this. I said, listen, I'll tell you what. You do live. I'm from the Midwest, so I can make these jokes. I said, I know you're in the middle of nowhere here, and you don't have any good steakhouses, but I'll tell you this. You use this system that I'm telling you right today, and if in the next 24 hours, if you don't get a call back from somebody that you have not heard from in months, I will drive you and your husband or whatever to the nearest big town where they have a Ruth's Chris, and I will buy you a steak. And she said, you're on. She came back 24 hours later, and she had a grin on her face that told me that I had just lost $150 worth of dinner. And she said, guess what? And I said, oh, let me guess. Let me guess here, honey. It didn't work. She said, no, I got 6 calls back. 6. These are people she hadn't prospected. She hadn't prospected these people the way that she should have over the course of the last 6 months, and she just switched to this system. Now, keep in mind, this isn't because of Ryan Dorn. This is me just helping you understand using your CRM tool to effectively be highly disciplined and highly relevant. And because of the time frame we have today, we can't get into all kinds of detail on this, but we're going to get into a lot of detail, as I said, at FMA, which is down in Florida. What's the date on that, Andy? August 1st?
It's August 1st and 2nd. Yeah, go ahead and go to the next slide, Karen.
And then we've got, so that's FMA, and that's great. And they do allow, I believe, non-members to attend. And then we've got the Niche Digital Conference that's in Nashville, there in Music City. I think it's what they call, maybe they call it Music City.
Yes, they do.
October 1 and 2, and we're going to get into a lot of detail in the sales tracks there. So I think that both of those are great opportunities for all of us, Andy, Karen, myself, to meet you, to meet you in person. But
that's great, and thank you so much, Ryan, today. Just to kind of give you a heads up on what some of our next webinars are going to include. Next month, we're going to have Contactology in here, doing a maximization of your email service provider, blasting emails. We've recently integrated with them, tracking metrics and so forth, launching blast emails directly from within Magazine Manager. But more importantly, what should your subject lines be? What should frequency be? What kind of content you should be? We'll have Will Elliott from Contactology joining on that. And a future webinar with Ryan is going to take this prospecting to the next step. And just to give you a little view here of where we're going, when you get to the point that you want to create the opportunity, and how do you close that multimedia sale? Ryan's got a lot of great things to talk about that. If you attend one of the conferences, you'll learn more. But just to give you an idea, I'd toggle over to the solution. When you're in a client record, putting together a nice multimedia proposal, are you doing something that looks like this? And Karen, can you show us the example of the grid and the multimedia opportunity there? Karen?
You lose her?
Oh.
Yeah, maybe we lost her.
Maybe we lost her at the end there. Well, no.
It's great, I promise.
Oh.
There we go.
Click on the proposal, Karen. That's all we wanted to look at, of something you would generate directly from Magazine Manager. And with that, a couple questions that did come up kind of frequently during the webinar was, are these reports standard? Everything we showed you, there may have been custom fields, but those are all things that you can create literally in seconds, not just a few minutes, and produce. But how about this, a 2-page proposal to your client that shows the proven multimedia sales grid, the one-pager from Ryan Dorn and 360 Ad Sales, as the first page of your proposal being emailed or PDF'd out to one of your prospects or an existing client, with the actual contract attached on page 2. The sum total, all the line item detail hidden as far as the dollars, away you go. And that's what goes back to the very first thing that we showed at the beginning of the webinar, is getting that funnel down to the opportunity, down to that proposal, that contract that we want to close, that deal we want to close. So, with that, we look forward to next month's webinar. We look forward to seeing a lot of you at the FMA and the Niche Digital Conference in Nashville in September. Ryan, once again, thank you very much for your time, and Karen and Donna for organizing this. We will be following up with getting this posted. It will be in our interactive help section within Magazine Manager. We'll be forwarding out links for others as well to access the recorded version of this. So thank you very much for attending. Ryan, I'll turn it back over to you, and we'll say farewell.
All right, my pleasure. And guys, if I can ever reach out, be of help to you, don't forget all Magazine Manager customers always get a discount from 360 Ad Sales Services. So feel free, a hefty discount, so feel free to reach out to me on that. And look forward to seeing you guys on the road, and Andy, Karen, everybody. Thanks so much for having me, and I truly value the relationship that we've been forming together through all of my clients using your system. So thanks so much.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.